we want to give you something here. So the question is, can you look at something? In other words, within what you are seeing in any moment in time, is there only one thing to see, or is there a myriad of things to see? In other words, when you look at anyone, isn't it a stick that has two ends? And so the question is, what is it? So let's say that there is a person and you're looking at them. What is happening that is causing that activation within you? That's the question. In other words, you can't look at two things at the same time. And so she is right. You have to see yourself differently. But when you're looking at something in any point in time and it is causing an emotion to come forth within you, that emotion is there to give you an indicator that you are right now looking at this in a way that your inner being does not. If your inner being was looking at that poor person in the same way that you are and feeling all of that sadness and sorrow about his plight, you would not feel the separation. There would be no separation. So when you feel that negative emotion, it means that there's a separation, which means you're seeing something, but your take on it is entirely different than the take your inner being is seeing. Your inner being is seeing this is an independent person. Your inner being is seeing that this is a person on the way to something else. And when you find a way to see it as so something that could close this gap very quickly for you, you could take a look at something like that, take your punch in the stomach that you get, and then stop and say, now wait a minute. The reason that this feels like this to me is because I'm seeing it in a way that who I really am is not seeing it. How might my inner being be approaching this? What is it that you see, inner being, that I'm not letting myself see? What is it? How can I see this the way you are seeing it? And as you pose that question, things will begin to occur to you, and you will begin to catch the spirit of that. And you know, it is a wonderful thing when you behold anyone, no matter who they are. Don't you feel better when someone sees you from their connected state of being rather than seeing you from their disconnected state of being?
Absolutely.
We were visiting with a man recently who was a teacher at a school, and there was a little girl there that had some debilitating illness, and she had a hard time getting around. And she wouldn't look at anyone. And he took it that she was so insecure or so embarrassed about the way she looked that she just couldn't stand to look at anyone. And later we were able to explain to him that the reason that she doesn't like to look at anyone is because she doesn't like what she sees as they reflect who they think she is back through their eyes. We said, if you begin seeing her as whole, we promise you, she'll look you right in the eyes, and you'll know you've cleaned up your vibration the day she does that, you see. So let your intention be to radiate to anyone, whether they are homeless in the street or whether they are anywhere along their emotional scale. Let your intent be to look at them in the way that best serves you. And in doing so, you will look at them in the way that best serves them. Most people, when they look at a scar, they want the scar to go away.
Okay.
And that's the vibrational essence. I want you to go away. But the fact that you are looking at it, that your friend standing in line at the ladies' room gave you very good information when she said, you've got to look at it in a different way. And we would say, relative to this, or not even look at it. Because when you look at something and you see it as you don't want it to be, and you say, and therefore I'm going to do something about that, you're not looking at where you're going, you're looking at where you are. And you can tell by the emotion that you feel about it. So what you want to do, let's apply those two things that we've been wishing for everyone. So you want to make peace with where you are. So feel the difference between looking at a scar that you want to go away and just acknowledging a scar. Very different charge on that. It's a very different charge on that. Or feel the difference between looking at the scar that you want to go away and looking at a scar that is not a big deal, that is resolving itself. Does your inner being see the scar? In other words, is there a reason to acknowledge the scar? What is your inner being seeing? Your inner being is seeing a vibrant body. Your inner being is seeing a body that is regenerating. Your inner being is seeing a body that is replacing itself often your inner being. And so when you see the homeless person or when you see the scar, say, inner being, how are you seeing this? And we think that what you will notice is that you will reach the place where you will see the scar as it is. Have you ever brought your broader perspective into your beingness? Have you ever, in a state of meditation, opened your eyes to see what you see? In other words, have you ever allowed yourself to see through the eyes of a connected self? Well, as you look at the energy that is us, we can be vibrationally anything that you have the ability to translate. In other words, there are many who, as they are even looking toward Esther and seeing the energy that is being projected, having different visuals that are coming about. For some who want wisdom, they see very old Indian chiefs. For some who want wisdom, they see very ancient souls, so to speak. Some see playful children. In other words, it is your translation in all of this. But what we are wanting you to realize is that as your inner being is looking at the reflection of that which is you, your inner being is seeing you as it knows you to be. And when you see yourself in that light and you feel the joy of that, you can know that you have released the resistance. It is all about closing that gap. And what we want to talk about this scar because it's lighting up all over the room here, or any scar. We want you to understand that when you have something about your body that you want to be different and you look at it as it is, this is what we've been talking about all day here today. You cannot look at what is and go to some place different, because when you look at what is, it activates and it becomes your point of attraction. So some way you have to distract yourself from the scar. So when you look at the scar, or when you remember the injury, or when you remember the poverty, or when you remember the homeless person, which is the painful point, and out of it is born what you want, then you must find a way to turn your undivided attention toward what you want. And so what we would say, what your inner being would reply to you as you say, what do you think about this scar? Your inner being would literally say, what scar? And it doesn't mean that your inner being doesn't have the ability to see what you see. It means your inner being has the ability to ignore or to turn the other cheek or to give attention to only what is wanted to be activated, you see. And this is the message over and over and over again. You just have to want to feel good so much, you see. And here is a big distinction here. And many people will benefit by this place that you have brought us. There is a big difference between not looking at the scar because you like the feeling of alignment that provides, and not looking at the scar because you're trying to cause an improvement in your bodily condition. In other words, we want you to let everything that you do to be about cleaning up the energy and closing the gap and coming into alignment, not because you think in doing that it will net you a physical result. When you take the physical result out of the equation and you only do it because it feels better, now you've got it. And now the physical equation has to come into place. The manifestation will follow. It has to follow. But when you can leave that out, it follows ever so much more quickly. It is so easy to clean up your vibration if you're not turning around every 5 minutes to see if cleaning up your vibration netted you some physical result. In other words, I want you to go away, scar, so I clean up my vibration. Are you gone? I want you to go away. Are you gone? I want to clean up my vibration. Are you gone? I want to clean. That score taking is what so many people are doing. And it's a fine line, because where do you cross the line? In other words, the contrast causes the birthing, and so the contrast is of value. But once the birthing of the desire has happened, now the contrast isn't serving you anymore. Now the new idea is what serves you, you see. So you have to look at your body as whole and perfect, as you have to look at the homeless man as whole and perfect. And for most physical humans, they would say, come on, Abraham, we can imagine what the Larry King show would do with that. Can't you? In other words, oh, come on. You gotta be kidding. How can it be possible that this man is homeless and you want us to just not look at the homeless? What possible good could come from that? And we say, only good comes from seeing what you want to see. That is the only place, the only thing that brings you into alignment. So when you see the homeless man, you've got to divert your eyes until you have practiced yourself into seeing something you like when you see it. So when you see the scar, you've got to divert your eyes until you've practiced seeing something that you like when you see it, you see. We think that scars of life, if you want to call it that, should be seen as trophies, because the scars of life are the stuff that the new desire is born out of. And eternity could not be without that contrasting and sometimes scarring situation. And when you come to love the contrast, now you begin to live life. You see, you're powerful. You have the ability to look wherever you want. We don't want to say, don't look at the scar. We don't want to say the scar is wrong to look at. We don't want to say the homeless man is wrong to look at. We want you to free yourself. We want you to be able to look anywhere and still feel good. That's what the art of allowing is. The art of allowing embraces the contrast while it chooses what feels best, you see. You've trained your mind to be very active. You are a creator through the power of your mind. So you were born with a very fast functioning mind. It wants to focus. That's what it's for, you see. And to ask it to be on pause, to ask yourself not to think about anything, is a very big asking, because everything about you has trained your mind to be active. So the reason that we teach meditation, you might laugh at this, but we've found that it is easier with most people to teach them to have no thought than to teach them to have positive thought. It would be easier to teach our friend relative to his mother to have no thought about her than to see her in her sadness and change the thought to seeing her in happiness. And so a good way of looking at meditation is that it is a powerful bridge from a vibration that is less beneficial to a vibration that is really beneficial. So the benefit of being able to quiet your mind is that when you quiet your mind, you stop thought. And when you stop thought, you stop resistance. And when you stop resistance, your vibration raises. It's like a cork. When you hold the cork under the water, that's like negative emotion. When you let it go, it will bob right back up to the surface, which is that pure positive energy that is your natural state of being. So as you sit to meditate and you have there are different ways to approach meditation, but this is what we mean by it. It's an opportunity to raise vibration. That's the whole point of it. So we would use meditation as the bridge to raise vibration. Some people attempt to use meditation as a sort of workshop or as a time that they can launch creation. And that's fine too. But we want to apply meditation to this step 1, step 2, step 3 process. So life is causing you to ask, and Source is answering. Meditation is a step 3 process that helps you to allow what you've been asking for. So if you don't try to make meditation be so meaningful, if instead you just see it as a time that you can relax and quiet your mind, what you begin to notice is that in quieting your mind, you begin to feel a detachment from the focus of the things around. And when you begin to feel that detachment, so much so that you can't even really tell that you're sitting or standing, you can't tell your nose from your toe, then you know that you've achieved that sort of mindless state, which means you are utterly in the state of allowing. You're awake and you're not resisting, and you're allowing your gap to be closed, which means the manifestations that you've been asking for are closer to coming into fruition for you. Now, how does one go about quieting the mind, a mind that wants to be active? Well, you choose something to think about that you don't have to think so actively about. In other words, Esther sometimes will think about Elsie running up the tree, running up the tree, running up the tree. Running up the tree is a pleasant thought, and it's easy to find, and it's interesting enough that she can stay with it. So she'll imagine Elsie running across the driveway, looking at them like as if to say, "Are you watching me?" And then she runs up the tree. And then when she gets to the top of the tree, she looks at them as if to say, "Did you see me run up the tree?" And then she runs down the tree and up the tree and down the tree and up the tree. And as Esther thinks about that, it's a soothing, quiet, not very active thought that immediately puts her in a place of a quieted mind. You can listen to the dripping of a faucet or light a candle and watch it moving in the wind. You can listen to the ticking of a clock. You can even find a sound in the air conditioning motor or whistling through the vent, in other words, or the sound of traffic. Focus on something that takes your attention and then try to hold yourself in that focus. Find a note in your mind and sing it or hold it in your mind. In other words, because that takes some concentration to hold a note and hold it there. And then find a note and then move one step.